she was this wonderful, crazy hair, very earthy woman who wasn't a nun, and said, Carolyn, you really need to do this. And she's, we're putting a portfolio together. I'm like, what's that? So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that divine intervention that she helped me and got accepted to a school and went down that path. And I didn't realize, I think the creative process, and that's what I'm loving now, is how intuitive the creative process is.
Mm,
It
mm.
really is. For me, it just feels like it's just connecting to source or universe, and it's channeled.
Welcome to Conversation for the Soul. I'm Linda Christine, and today I had an incredible, soulful conversation with Carolyn Wagner. Carolyn is a visionary, a creative, she's a consultant, and she's an author. In fact, she's an author of this amazing little starseed book about these girls that come to Earth to help save the planet. It's called New World Girls, and she's going to tell us all about it. And she's going to talk about her creative endeavors, her adventures in PR and graphic design. And I love how this conversation weaves in spirituality and being in the flow, along with working with these large Fortune 500 companies and making a difference and making beautiful, creative things. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really think you're going to love Carolyn's book about the New World Girls. She talks about all the characters at the end, and it's really cute. And you know what I'm going to say? Like, share, subscribe. Okay, this is how we get the word out about all these cool people that I'm talking to. These are change makers. These are spiritual shifts that are being made in the world through these human beings. And I'm stumbling all over the place, but I don't care because I really need you to like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to leave it because I don't want to do another take. And we're going to go ahead and talk to Carolyn right now, right after you hit that like, share, subscribe button. Here we go. Welcome, Carolyn. I am so excited to have you here today. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my God, Linda, I can't even believe it. I'm so excited to be invited. I've got goosebumps and I'm just so grateful. So thank you for having
Yay,
me.
yay, yay, yay. I just love how serendipitous this podcast has become, where I just like pluck these people off social media and they end up being kindred spirits. And you and I are definitely star sisters from somewhere else. So maybe we're New World girls.
I think we're totally New World girls without a doubt. And I'm going to
Yeah.
send you a book too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I have a new grandbaby girl that would probably love it at some point real soon. So that's great.
That sounds perfect. Love that.
Yeah. But anyways, so everybody else can join in the conversation. Tell me a little bit about your awakening process, Carolyn, because you seem like somebody that's really in tuned, intuitive. Were you always that way, or is that something that was triggered by an event or something in your life?
No, it's really interesting. I'm going to say ever since I was little, a little girl, you would catch myself humming and singing like da, da, by myself in the woods. I would go in nature. I would like go, and I was lucky. We grew up in Omaha. I was born actually first generation American to
Wow.
German and Austrian parents. Was born in San Jose. At age 1, we moved to Omaha. I had no choice in that decision. So we moved to Omaha, but Omaha was great. It was wholesome and safe. And my brother and I were always digging in the dirt. And I would just wander off and walk in the woods. And there's pictures of me with my hands behind my back, like running with my pigtails. I just loved nature. And then we moved to New Jersey and we had this big plot of land behind our house that was forest. And for me, my happy place is being connected with pine trees, any kind of, and I would just be content walking in the woods. And I always felt connected. And I also will say I'm an empath. So growing up might have been a little tough, but I could feel always what was going on in the room. I'm also a middle child syndrome. So middle child. So I was always said I was Miss Switzerland because I could navigate and I could feel everybody of where they were and where they're at. And I really wasn't sure what to do with it as a little girl. But as I started getting older, I always found that I was counseling people because they come and be listening. But what it really did is I love creativity. So when I was little, I would just draw all the time, like little Betsy. I didn't have the skill of what to draw for my imagination at that time. So I'd get the Betsy Clark cards and I would just draw them and give it to like, whoever was sick in the family or whatever. And they're like, you traced this. I'm like, no, I didn't, and then I just evolved. I loved drawing and I loved creativity. And before I knew it, here I thought I would study biology, and I ended up in a school for studying graphic design and communication arts, not even knowing what communication arts was.
But how great though, because I kind of took the backward ass path. Photography was my jam since I was in 4th grade. Okay. I got my first camera and I couldn't stop. And my mom hated it because she was single parenting me and had to pay for developing film. And I'm like, sure. But I got all these pictures. And, and so I was told by my mom, you can't make money being a photographer. So you need to find something else you can do. Well, I fell into television, which is still, it was a very creative path for me, but it wasn't where my heart was.
Right. I could feel that. Yeah, my dad did say communication designs, you can't. And at that point, my parents were divorced. So he's like, you can't go to school for that. What is that? You need to earn a living, be an accountant. And I'm like,
oh, you can make a very good living doing that.
I'm like, I'm not a numbers girl. I'm like, accountant. What's that? I'm having a headache. So I am grateful for my senior year high school teacher, Ms. Miller. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, the Academy of the Holy Angels. Yes.
Oh, so you're a recovering Catholic too.
Yes.
And my mom went to Holy Angels in Minnesota, actually. So I think there's one in every city, probably.
I didn't know. So there's a synchronicity again. And so Ms. Miller, thank God, she was this wonderful, crazy hair, very earthy woman who wasn't a nun, and said, Carolyn, you really need to do this. And we're putting a portfolio together. I'm like, what's that? So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that divine intervention that she helped me and got accepted to a school and went down that path. And I didn't realize, I think the creative process, and that's what I'm loving now, is how intuitive the creative process is. It really is. For me, it just feels like it's just connecting to source or universe, and it's channeled.
It definitely is. It definitely is. My cards that I just showed you earlier, totally channeled without my knowing. I mean, I sat there and created them on my computer in like a week next to my husband watching TV. They were just coming in. And then I went to do the book and it was like crickets. I'm like, but when I made each card, I heard everything that the card was about and everything that went into it. And I was told, no, you're going to let people use their own intuition. The cards are going to help them expand that intuitive muscle. And so I'm like, oh, I like that.
I do like that.
And, it's so important. So many people are just afraid to tap into their own knowing. Don't you find that?
Absolutely. I think I actually kind of maybe took it for granted that was the process until later on I start, really being open to, because I do have a workshop and I do want to bring it into a book, which is called Signs, Symbols, and Synchronicities. And it's like, how do we tap into it? So I started looking like through the past of how would I explain that? And I started just journaling pages every time it would happen. I would just journal. So now it's in this folder like this. And I took some of that content to put it in for the workshop. So I just find it interesting. Like an example was, I love animal metaphors, and I find really present for me. And I do live in Boulder, Colorado. So I'm breeding hawks and bobcats and, elk, they're very present and strong. And I'm just feeling like there's such a synchronicity. And I did an equine workshop up in Evergreen. And before I even went, I'm driving and like 3, 4 female deer came flying in front of my car. And I was going slow enough, but they just like, and they froze. And I'm like, come on, girls, just go back up the hill. I was just giving an energetic way for them. And they were frozen and they didn't know what to do. And they were scared. And I'm like, okay, girls, I gotta go. Then they scurry up. And then I go further, not even a mile down the road, right by Evergreen Lake, is the most majestic stag, just like taking up space and just standing, and I'm just like, whoa. And I was so impressed. So I pulled over just to witness this. And of course, there was 2 cyclists that got a little more curious and started going closer. And I'm like, yeah, give him space. Yeah. And sure enough, he rears his rear end and starts charging, but he was far enough away. And I'm like, I'm going back into the car, respect.
Yeah, right.
Right. And then so when I get back to Cammie to do the equine workshop, she's like, what do you want to work on today? And I'm like, I had this beautiful experience and I talk about the deer and the stag. And so I had just started probably a year into being a chief creative officer at a PR creative firm in Denver. I go, I want to know how I'm showing up. How am I taking up space? Like, how am I perceived in this company? Because this company was formed for many years, and here I'm this new one coming in trying to help them get to the next level. And that's exactly what we worked on. So it's like tuning into what's in front of you to interpret it to like what, and that's exactly what I worked on. And hilariously enough, when she was bringing the second new horse in a very small corral, and we're sitting next to each other in the little canvas chairs with our journals, I'm just feeling this big butt behind my head. And I'm just like, and I just flew out of my chair and she's like, whoa, what happened? I'm like, I don't know that horse. I kind of felt a hoof coming towards my head. And so she just interpreted it like, well, who are you jumping up for? And where are you not taking space? And I'm like, I think I'm over accommodating because I'm like the new kid in the block. So I wasn't being in my truth and my space. So I just find, and there's so many of these instances, but I think they're so profound if we're really just listening to what's in front of us. Like if I didn't look a little deeper into those signs, I would have missed the whole beautiful journey. So that kind of thing.
Now, this equine workshop, was that something that your PR firm put you up to do, or was that something you did independently because you wanted to work through whatever you were working through?
Good question. No, I did it independently. And I wanted to bring some of this to the leadership that all of us would come to do it. But because I thought it was so powerful. Instead, what I did on the next, we always do these annual reviews. So the next review, I actually brought in a mindful coach to talk about how we can be more mindful and calmer in our space and actually be more mindful with ourselves and each other. And some of them really resonated with it. And some, others didn't. But it was really hard what I realized is I thought I would be part of helping the culture. And so I was bringing these things in the forefront. But I realized they never asked for it. And they really didn't want it. So, it's like, okay, I got it. It's not, I'm not with my right tribe. They have certain things that they need done, and that's what they're looking for. So respect, and just understood. I really had to understand where am I putting my energy and what was I really called forth to do there. And that part wasn't it. So
yeah, that's so challenging. I mean, that was part of my hang up with corporate America was there was no consciousness about it. It was more being a drone, getting the dollar, doing whatever to make the shareholders happy kind of thing. And wow, how cool would it have been if they were accepting of that, what you were bringing in, but then you also have the people above and the people below who may create friction because they don't think that's something that they need to have in their wheelhouse. So, wow.
Exactly. Wow. It was a digit. They were looking at the digits and the numbers, and that's not what I was really trying to bring in great creative, which we did, and it became award winning and won clients and all, and that was all great stuff.
Yeah.
But then it was like they wanted to go back how they were doing it. I'm like, but no, you can't do that because we're doing this differently now.
Yeah.
So
We've moved forward. Hello.
yeah. So it's like, okay, I get it, so at a certain point it's like not a fit, and I think I'll carry on.
Yeah. So did you leave there and now are you independent, or do you work for someone else?
No, I left there, and it was about 4 years ago that I left. And I always go in different waves. I will be a consultant, and I will work with direct companies and relaunch them, rebrand them, or I will sometimes work for agencies or design firms. So then I'll go in to help their creative, or I'll bring in a team and we'll come in and do the new business pitches and things like that. So I kind of go in waves. But after that, I'd have to say it was right before COVID. And my husband is a professor at CU, and he would always use this word sabbatical. And and he goes, Carolyn, I think you need a sabbatical. I'm like, I think I need one of those too.
Serve me up one, please.
Yes. Hello, sabbatical coming up. And that is where I decided I needed to take a break, because I had a hard time. Like, I get so involved with the creative that we have to honor what we're tapping into and our energy sources, and respecting that, because you can't keep on pushing that all the time without regenerations. Yeah. And so I realized I needed to stop a bit. And that's when I finally gave the time, because I had New World Girls on the side as a book, and it was always on the side. And so I just took that and put it front line and center. We're doing this. So on my sabbatical, I decided to publish my first book, New World Girls, and their first mission is landing on Earth. And it's 5 cross-cultural, crystal-toting supergirls coming on planet Earth for a vision quest for many earthly adventures. And
what planet are they from?
All different ones. So
wow.
They're the same.
Okay, I see Lyran, I see Palladian, I see Syrian.
I'm so glad, because that I don't know. Actually, one of them, they're little Mika, she's coming from Star Tubo X450. I don't know where that's from.
Oh, I think that's to the left in the Milky Way.
Thank you. But they're beautiful little star seeds that are here on this mission to help planet Earth and the people. And it's about the soft skills. It's the beauty of one tapping in to nature and animals. That's her guiding post. And she's here to help nature and the animals. Whereas another one, Maria, who's from Mayan ancestry. And she's all about connecting to spirits and the angelic realm. Wow. Each one is kind of using their special gifts to help solve problems and to learn about different cultures around the world.
Okay, this is amazing. Where did this concept come from?
It came from, so I would say the last 25 years, I've been deep and personal and spiritual learning. So I've had a lot of teachers, done a lot of year, workshops long, just like Belinda was the College of Spiritual Evolution. I didn't know what it was. I needed to do it. It was in Santa Fe. So we'd go every other month for 5 days. So it was a lot of deep inner work of learning about the inner child, I love metaphors. So dream metaphors and metaphors in life. So for me, that just really became palatable and really deep. And one day, one of my dearest friends, Bonnie, who also was going with me to Belinda, we just sat on my porch in Chicago. And it's just and we started thinking these characters sitting up there. I'm like, I don't want to do that, but I'll be that. So before they were even coming, it was just we were developing these characters. And it wasn't in the depth where they are now. It was just a first little thought of how we do this and what would they do. And Bonnie got really busy, and she's a professor at Columbia College in Chicago. So I just decided to I need to keep this going. And so I just kept building the characters. And then the same thing, your beautiful oracle cards, it's just the stories just come down. I am just writing, and it's one page at a time, just what happens. and then it's next. So and then I would just really look into the characters, and I didn't realize they were star seeds until later, but it's this whole development. And I really want to carry it to social, emotional, and spiritual intelligence for learning apps. So like how those emotions per character, and each one learns differently too. So really, I think there's a potential of doing something really different here.
Wow. You have a autistic Asperger type character?
I'm gonna say Maya, she believes in patterns, so she thinks more in patterns and ways. So I think that's split between two, where another one really doesn't talk much to people. So I think we can add those essence.
Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. Because there's I have one. My youngest is Asperger's. So, and the prevalence of these kids now, it's just mind-blowing. Clearly, there's something, to me, environmental that's causing that. And I won't go there with my thoughts right now because we're not talking about that. But that's great. I mean, and I do. You're absolutely right. I imagine those people might be up there in a star system sending you all this information right now. I mean, it could be possible.
It could be. And if we can capture the essence, just some little part of the essence of that and bring it. So I think it's really important to find, I want to have each character have different ways for mindfulness. Like, how do we tap into, how can we calm ourselves down? So I think for me, emotional skills, I never had this great teaching or learning environment around me when I grew up. It's in my later years when I learned it. And I was like, why didn't we have that when we were little? And that's bringing this forth to like, let's bring some beautiful tools and techniques to little ones that I think can remain tapped into it, because we kind of always release that in our teens and older. But what if it's so strong, that foundation, that they keep some of that?
That's huge. That is huge. What a wonderful service you're bringing to humanity through all that. It's beautiful because the children are it. I mean, as much as we look at some people, I will say, look at the children now and go, oh my gosh, where are we going with this weird crowd of kids coming in right now? You know, they said that about us, and our grandparents said that about us. And, you know, it just always happens because one generation has a hard time seeing the other generation, I think, and understanding. So, wow, what a gift, Carolyn.
I'm looking for partnerships so we can really bring it out into the world. So I'm open to that for the next level. And I also think there's an honoring. So everything is like cross-cultural, cross-generational. Ellie Pup is a body of a puppy and a head of an elephant. So it's like he got stuck in between two reincarnations, but he is here. So it's like all this beautiful, what I want to weave in is the beauty of all these different elements and layers of who we are. And I also want to honor the elders and ancient wisdom and bring that, because that brings us back to our roots and our true essence of who we are. And I really think there's so much wisdom needs to be brought again from connecting to the earth, from the sacredness of ritual or everyday intention, all of that. I think that, and you find it more and more common in different indigenous tribes and cultures. But if we can go back to what we lost and bring it back as an element to embrace and really, and I think I'm seeing that. I feel like I'm seeing that more and more. So if we can honor, then again, also the elders in these stories. So
I was perusing through your Facebook because I really don't know you. I'm getting to know you now along with everybody else. And I saw something about you went to a workshop and somebody suggested that you see a shaman. Did you ever do that?
No, it was really interesting. So I had a reading from Greg Lavoie, who wrote a great book called Callings, and it's about an authentic life, your purpose and your passion. And because I was talking to him and I said, yeah, I'm a creative visionary and I love vision and I love creating in the unknown. And so he kept on saying vision, vision, vision. I says, I think you need to see a shaman and do some visioning work. And this was just, I'm going to say a year or two ago. So I'm like, it didn't strike me like, got to do it, but I was like, So I started looking. He gave a couple organizations that were reputable that he thought. And I started looking around and trying to see, do they resonate? And I would feel into who they were or what they were doing, the work they were doing. And I'll have to be honest, with that hour and a half, I didn't feel anything. I'm like, nope, nope, nope. And I'm like, that is really interesting. So I'm just like, oh, well. And I just get in my car, drive down the road, about a mile down the road again. And there's this huge, beautiful mural, outstanding mural of a shaman shape shifting on the, and I'm just like, I just pulled in the parking lot and sat for an hour. And I'm like, this feels right. Like we really have to honor the truth and the shamans within that we are in ourselves. And I felt like I was complete. And so we might not know how it shows up in our life, right? So like here I'm thinking I need to really work with a shaman, but it wasn't resonating inside. And then I see this and I'm like, that's it. That's all I needed. So it's interesting again how it shows up, synchronicities.
Do you mind if I share the photo? Because it's pretty
Oh,
awesome.
no. And I
Is
would
it okay?
please, because I'd like to highlight the artist as well. He's phenomenal.
Look at that. Wow.
If you could click on the
wow.
too, because I really want to honor it's so powerful, Linda. I can't even tell you. And it's a mile down my road. It's such powerful work.
Victor, Marca 27.
An international, an international street artist. He can be found on Marca 27. I always compliment him. And a lot of his work is very embracing his culture and heritage in shamanism. And I'm just really, it's so impactful.
I love that. I love that. Does he do other kind of art?
He does. I think I just saw on Instagram that he just did a top of a table. But he's done very gifted. He's done a lot of murals. But I think he's transforming it into other pieces too. But
the indigenous elders are very much a part of my spirit's lineage. So anything like that, I just really resonate with. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful. So, okay, back to our little Wonder Girls.
Yes, we love
our
them.
New World girls.
They are wonders.
So where are your plans to take this project? Because you said something pre-recording that animation series, something like that. That's neat.
So I have concepted SEL apps for that, which would be character driven. And I also can find easy ways how we take from the stories and bring it into online games. So how to solve something, we can bring into that. But what I also, because I'm very visual, so usually in the ad world, when I was working that for so many years, you're always matched with an art director and a copywriter. So you always kind of team up. And so I'm always visual, like all my cues come always visually to me. But I also hear things like if I see a line, I'm like, oh, the balance between two worlds, that's it. Like I when I hear it, I know it. So again, when COVID hit, I decided to pivot and I have the books and that's great. And I decided to create more of an animation series. So I wrote 11 stories. I went in a lot of detail into the characters, the worlds, the setup. And right now that's where I'm looking for partnerships to see how we can bring this forth and get it on a series. So it's this whole enterprise at this moment.
I love your big vision. I love it. It's so beautiful.
I have a hard time to stay contained. I don't like to be contained. So it's like I really like to explore different avenues of what I'm creating. And even if it's, rebranding a company, it's always like their look and feel, their messaging, but it's also their website, the social thought leadership, it's how do we their advertising. Like I really like to play in that bigger space. That makes me more happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Is the New World Girls taking up all of Carolyn's time, or are you dabbling in some other things? Because you're very much about empowering people creatively.
It's interesting. I would say a year ago, I was a little not sure how to explain what I do. It was feeling more compartmentalized. Like, okay, I rebrand companies and launch them, and then I'm doing New World Girls, but at the same time, I'm also coming up with workshops. So it's like all these pieces, and they felt separate. And it was really hard to go like, how do I bring all of me to everything I do? So thank you for saying that, because that's exactly, I kind of reflected actually this morning, and I'm like, oh, no, it's threads weaving all of these together. So what I love to do is empower and inspire individuals, companies, programs. So I think with being the empath and intuitive, you can see where everybody wants to go. So it's like you're almost like a connector in a way of, and usually when I come up with a concept, it's with the first minute, first 60 seconds, I see it. I'm like, ooh, I got to create that now. Okay. So, but I love the fact that I still want to consult for companies when they need me, but I also have this passion of working with individuals, of really to show them how to also tap in and give them examples so they can have more of a sensory feeling of that. And also I like to coach them along, like, where are they in their workplace right now? Like, how to get them to the next level of where they want to be and honor what they love. And most of the time it comes up with, we come up with new positions. Like, that's interesting. Well, what if you were this? And you could create your own role. And at the same token, you would love what you do, but you're also solving a problem that they need. So it's like, really, I love being in an expansive place of finding different ways to get you to that next level. And so I look at that, or I look at companies where they need their creative up leveled. So we're just really taking everything and bringing it into a fresher feel. And so if I look at that, whether it's individuals, companies, programs, books, I think my sweet spot is I love tapping in to inspire and empower others where they can go, who they're becoming and where their potential is. So,
and how would you define that thread, or the threads that weave together creativity and spirituality? Because I see it so easily, but I don't know that a lot of people actually know that maybe they're channeling something when they're creating something.
I don't, it's true. I don't think they really know, but it's like funny, even another company 15 years ago when I was rebranding, a tech company, and I'm down in the tech center in Denver Tech Center. And I'd start off like, anybody have dreams today? What were your dreams last night? Let's talk about dream. And we would open up and talk about dream metaphors. So I think what it is exposure, right? So hopefully by showing something about that shaman mural, or showing about how, I also like to give examples, even in some of my case study work, of how I came to one image or one title and how that became the whole campaign. Like, again, if you're ever stuck, and I know in the beginning when we were creatives, we'd always be a little stuck and like, oh my God, how did I do that? Like, how did that happen? How did I create it? And if you just stop, for me, I open up periodicals, books. It might be that beautiful image, Linda, that you had shot, and it just brings me into exactly what it's supposed to be. And if I can help share some of that process to other people, then they might see more that they are really tapping into it and they just didn't know it. So I think that's maybe how we can bridge more of that spirituality into everyday work and life, period.
And then let's take that one step further.
Okay.
We know we're in a great expansion on the planet right now. Things are shifting, perceptions are changing, people are expanding spiritually at such a rapid pace. How do you then dovetail from what you just said into that expansiveness as a more consciously aware human being?
For the individual, or?
Yeah, for the individual or the company, because we could use more consciously aware companies out there.
We can. And again, I find, and what I write on my pitch decks, are you ready, willing, and able? So I want to find, what I find is companies that are, I feel I work really well with other visionaries. You're a visionary. It's like you can really connect on another plane automatically and work very easily together. I find when you're not working sometimes with visionaries, a little harder to explain what you're doing because they're not in that space of receiving that yet. So they're
The analyticals, yeah.
Yes, CTOs, sometimes it's a little tough, but then the CMO might be like, oh, I totally get it. Let's go, So I'm finding, yes, companies are becoming more conscious and more aware. What I'd like to do is tap into more of those that are more open and willing to go to the next level because it makes it easier. What I found in the past is it's too hard and it takes too long to educate. It's just like, and I think then it starts wasting everybody's energy. So and I think because consciousness is shifting and more people are opening and willing, that's where I love to show them like, this is where you can go. You're offering this, but you can also offer this. This is a whole nother path, say even in their service and offerings, or whoever's going into a new position. But I think working with them and then also understanding how to communicate it better, then they'll start seeing it. And then also I think I'm mindful with my communication as to what I'm actually saying too. So like I think you can guide other people to get to those other places with more potential expansiveness and not have to 100% say how much spiritual that is, but you just say, there's something we're connecting into here that's so much bigger than us. I don't know what is, but let's keep going down this. Right.
I love that. We need to have more talk like that. Because I think sometimes I don't know how much time you spend in the spiritual community, but there's a lot of elevated talk and words that I think would just make people that are on the precipice of making that step into the spiritual community kind of go, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, and step away.
Right. So I think we really have to, that's how we have to like kind of be those little way showers of connecting those bridges, but really be in tune to what can they receive? Like, what can we really say here? Because I think we still can bring the people where they need to go or whatever project by selectively saying what we, using discernment of how we say it. I think that's really important because I think there's an openness there when you feel it. And I agree, you have to just be mindful of how do we communicate this? And I agree. And I saw that Kathleen, is it not Haley? Is it Haley? Kathleen Haley?
Oh, yeah.
I love her. I love her work too. And I'm like, because when I looked at your beautiful photography, I'm like, oh, know her. So I'm just, again, looking at the connections of who we know too, without even knowing one another. And that's so special. So, yeah.
Okay. So I believe when you're talking about the shaman, that you are a creative shaman. This is a new world shaman that you are ushering in. So creative shaman, where do you see our planet going in the next year, 5 years, 10 years?
I think more and more is being open to talking about emotions, feelings, mental health. I think more and more therapists and alternative modalities are going to be sought after and a need. Like I feel 10 years ago that was hard to break into, and especially some of these different modalities. But I think more and more people are realizing that the old way is not working anymore. We need to step into something. And I think most individuals, because if there's too much struggle or pain and suffering in whatever respect it is, that they're looking for some relief. And I think therefore people are going to start being more open to, and I think other people are like, hey, did you try this? Or, I think that communication and that wave is going to open up more. I think people are going to be more conscious. I think we need to be so much more conscious about our water, our earth, and being mindful of what we have. and really cherishing it. So I think, again, I think it's also going to start more small communities locally. I think the whole government or the whole, that's too hard to change. But I think it's gonna, just like, you and I, this conversation and another conversation, whatever it is, and that might be for the water rights, or I just feel it's more local, and these small little these are just little organic little pieces that start to connect with one another, and then start opening the change.
Little ripples.
Yes, little ripples. Yeah. That's what I kind of think.
So being a shaman, is there a benefit to helping people expand their creativity through any kind of plant medicine, be it psilocybin or otherwise?
I think it's helping a lot. It's interesting. There's a woman, Anna Loeb. She's in Oregon, and she's exactly working in that space with psilocybin. And I know someone who was also really having a hard time with bipolar and depression. She just started getting on psilocybin maybe a month, 2 months ago. And we meet with her every Sunday for the New York Times crossword puzzle. And she's happier. Like, I see an entire shift. Like, I look at her and I go, oh my God, you're happier. Like, so I think bringing in some of that plant medicine is really powerful. All I can say is we really need to use discernment in who we're working with, and to really know this is not anything to take lightly. You really need to do the research and make sure, check back in your heart and how you're feeling, if this feels in alignment, if it feels called to you, and not just do it because I got to do it. I think it's really good for some people, and some people, you don't have to go down that road. So it's really upon individual choice.
Yeah, I will second and third that. I did an ayahuasca journey with somebody who was not the right person. Mm-hmm. And it was very strange. And that's all I'm going to say.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. It's just like, we're just our clients too. Are we aligned with them? Are you feeling like this great energy engaged? Or are we seeing so many red flags and we're ignoring them that is just like, and later on, oh, I shouldn't have, so I think we really need to listen to that first hit of intuition. And because I know we can get in our head and make it right. Like, we can do it, but it's like, no, stick to that first intuition. And we're learning that as we get older.
Yeah. And spiritual practitioners too, because a lot of times you're being very vulnerable and opening up,
right?
Letting somebody into your spiritual Kool-Aid that maybe should not be in there, so.
Absolutely. And I think at the end of the day too, all spiritual teachers that we work with, it's wonderful. I'd also like to hear more about the dragon work that you're doing, but it's the fact that bring it back of the teachings so they can decide for themselves. So I don't think we're in the age of looking for gurus anymore. We're really need to empower ourselves, but we need the guidance and the tools and the check-ins every so often to see, so that's kind of where I think it's at.
Yeah. And that's, I think, still kind of a misnomer that, oh, I can go get fixed by this person. Well, no, that person can probably take your hand and give you some guidance, but you got to do the work. You got to do the heavy lifting. And I think that's kind of a disconnect for some folks.
Mm-hmm. But don't you think more and more people on the conscious level are understanding that more?
Yeah, I believe so. But I think there's people stepping in to the community too that are maybe still in the victim mode, maybe still not understanding that they got to do some really dark shadow work and have some ugly time to get through it all. But I don't know. I'm still very positive about where the world's going. There's so much fucked upness right now, but I still in here feel like it's going to such a good place. I have a really hard time believing the doom and gloom. How do you feel?
Optimist at heart, always. I see the potential. I see possibilities all the time. And I'm thinking, like, 10 years ago, I don't think we would have connected 10 years ago, Linda. No. Like, I really don't. But look on an instant how we connected. And
And
that's
I don't even know how. I don't even know how
I
you got
know.
on my radar. And this has happened with a few folks that are just like star sisters. And I'm like, wow, that's so weird.
It's
So weird.
magic.
It is.
It's just magic. And it's like, I love it. And
Yeah.
then you'll realize sometimes you reach out to people and it just automatic flow. So you're in flow and it just goes.
Yep.
And then it's just like, or just halts, comes to a screeching halt. It's like, "Oop, okay,
Yep.
nope, let it
Yep.
go."
Moving on.
Uh-huh.
So if you could for a second, grab your book, New World Girls,
Okay.
behind you or there. Okay.
Yes.
Of course you have multiple copies. What am I thinking?
Yes. I art directed everything just for you.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
I never do
Well,
it.
are
Aside
those little
from-
characters back there? Are they like on popsicle sticks or something? Or how is that?
So, why, yes, they're on little skewers.
That is so
And
cool.
I
Can you introduce us to each one?
You betcha, because it's interesting what I love to do sometimes. So when I went to Tulum, I think it was 2019,
Oh my
I
God.
took I
I love
took
Tulum.
little,
I have a Tulum story for you when we're
oh
done.
good, I can't wait to hear. So I took little Maria to Tulum because she's learning more about her Mayan culture. And I shot, there's a great picture on Insta for Newer Girls of stuck her in the ground right before Chichen Itza. I just
Oh,
put her there. And I would just go all the way around and just take shots of her in this space. And it was so much fun. But since I'm on Maria, this is beautiful Maria, and she's all about the ethereal realm. She believes in angels, and the other thing is she believes so wholeheartedly that she can connect to things. So she's here to help other kids connect to the ethereal realm and to believe.
Maria's my soul sister.
I'm so glad, Linda. I feel it too. Then we have gorgeous Mudra. I love Mudra. Mudra is all about La Luna, the rhythms, emotions, feelings, and crystals. So she has a huge purple amethyst in her backpack, and whenever she puts it down, it grows 10 feet tall.
Wow.
And she's so well read, and she's coming from Hawaii and Africa. So she's embracing that kind of heritage. And then we have Monica. Monica she's pretty much the animal and nature whisperer. She can speak to any animal, any tree, any bird, people not so much. And she's here to help the planet, and she can shapeshift into a hummingbird.
Wow. She's a little elemental.
Yes.
I love you, Monica.
And then we have Maya. We love Maya. So Maya's all about gadgets and patterns. And she's also about auras, reading auras and receiving that. So she's here to really kind of tap in to how do we see things differently. And she misuses words but we'll get it out in some way. And then we have little Mika. So this is Mika. And Mika is kind of like the embodiment of the Dalai Lama. Just full compassion, just such ease. The girls never understand her. She just moves on, and they're like, oh, we better catch up with her. She always knows. She's an ancient soul, even though she's the youngest one of them all. And she's the one who comes from Star Tubo X450. And then, of course, we have their mystical mascot, and I hope Ellie Pup stays it. So this is little Ellie Pup.
Oh, wow.
And Ellie
so
Pup
cute.
Comes to planet Earth with Mika. And so those are our 5 girls. We have an additional character coming, Malika, because we need another representation of our globe. And so we're working on that one as well.
Nice. Now, did you do the artwork for this too?
No, I did the direction for it. So I looked probably for half a year for the right illustrator and went through many illustrators. I've reached out to people in Holland, in Israel, in all over the world. But I found Alice Wong, who's in San Francisco. And she's the most amazing. I had one round of characters built 2013, a long time ago. And they were a little too old. They were more looking very futuristic. And so I decided with the books that I needed to bring it to a younger audience. So I researched that, and Alice did the most amazing job. And she also worked on the first book. And I compliment her so much because we really worked together of what the characters were, what I saw, and what we needed to create. So it was such a pleasure to work with her.
Well, they're beautifully done. I can feel their personalities just in the way that they look.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to say there's probably a little bit of me in every one of them.
I don't doubt it, as it should be. So what age group is this for?
I'm going to say 6 to 10. I find sometimes 11-year-olds will like it because they just kind of connect to that innocence. 6 years old, they can't read it 100% on their own. It's definitely much more.
Like, show us a few pages.
I will. It's definitely more text heavy than just simple. So this is when Monica,
that's
is
probably
landing
like
on Earth. And so it's definitely these are their tools. So beautiful. It's definitely more copy. And but I would say 8, 9, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, they could read it on their own. But then lots of times the parents are reading it to them. So I would say that's
parents can start reading it and then hand it off and they can start reading it.
Right.
And it can be found on Amazon.
Could be found on Amazon. I also have it in English and Spanish.
Nice.
So please look out for it in Spanish. And I also have it on my website. If it needs to be bulk orders, I've already sent it to some bilingual schools, both languages, and which is on newworldgirls.com.
Nice. Now I will put your information below in the description box, but tell everybody what else you have going on.
Just finished a workshop. So aside of New World Girls, just finished the Curiosity, Synchronicity, Possibility workshop. And it was a great gathering. I had someone from Spain, someone for North Carolina, someone in the UX UI world. So user interface, a program manager for that. Another one who is a leadership coach who's coming from, Janet's lovely. She had got a master's from Harvard. So I love, I'm not sure where these workshops, like who's the audience. I always thought creative types, or spiritual community. And it's like, no, it's developing to something else. So any way that I can help in how to tap in and how we can see more potential. So that's that part. And then, yes, I'm looking for, I'm going to say more clients who needs to be expanded more into what they're doing.
Well, and we didn't even get to the symbols and the synchronicities and all of that, which is like, I really want to know more about that too. So maybe we'll have to get together again.
That would be fabulous.
Yeah. Unless you can share a little bit about that.
I guess I can. So for me, signs, symbols, and synchronicities, it's again, how we're open to things. I think it's universal flow. That workshop is a little different than the curiosity one. And that one shows all creative projects and how I got from start to finish. So like how it evolved from a simple image that later on ended it to be a campaign. Same thing with the title. So that one I think is more for creatives to understand how you're linking totally separate pieces into your projects. And then also, if you're taking down this one route, how it can expand to different possibilities. So I like to really show, and then of course I bring it back into my life. So after I show the case study work, I like to show how are we open to every day of seeing these signs. And I think a lot of the younger, so if it's students, grad students, they always comment saying, I'm always on my computer looking on Insta or social for inspiration. I never go to printed things. And I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? And so that opens up to looking at other resources. Like there's so much outside in front of us and not just funneled into a device.
Yeah. And I think that change in scenery too, stepping away from the electronics and going out even into an urban environment. I would rather go into a forest, but right. You can get inspiration both those places.
Absolutely. And I remember too, always, I've worked in cities all my life, New York, LA, Chicago, Munich. I would always find my little sanctuaries wherever it is. I'd find that little garden, in the middle of the concrete, go there to have my lunch, just reconnect before I go back in. And I think it's essential for everybody to go outside. Like I just went and visited
Yes.
my blue spruce outside before we had our call. But
Oh,
yeah, it's so important to really step away, reconnect, and then come back.
okay. That's everybody's homework assignment for tonight. Go outside for 15 minutes. Better yet, take your shoes off and stand on the ground if you can.
100%. I'm glad you added that. I don't even care if it's cold.
Yeah, right? Put some socks on, cotton socks. You'll be okay.
Totally okay. Yes, get in the dirt.
Oh, Carolyn, you're such a joy to talk with. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share. I so honor you. And I am just so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, Linda.
It was so much fun. So much fun. Okay, well, we're going to say goodbye to everybody, and then you and I can wrap up after that.
I love that. Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Bye-bye.
Take care.